President did today potentially the beginning of the end of Obamacare. David Cutler is the former senior health care advisor to Barack Obama's 2008 campaign. He's a Harvard economics professor, and he's been a very influential figure in shaping this law and somebody who sounded the alarm about its implementation back in 2010 to deaf ears, as it turns out. Professor, good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
So when you were on last week, I asked you, if they don't get enough people in the exchanges, then what happens? And you said then the premiums go up very, very high. Now, was that ball put in motion today?
We don't know yet. So what the president is trying to do is to say the website is not working, the exchanges are not working. Let's try and slow the process down and delay it by a year. And if it turns out to be a delay of a year, then we can work through that. It will be uncomfortable, as it has been for the past month, but it'll turn out okay. Mm-hmm. If it becomes a permanent situation that people who are healthier stay away and people who are sicker go into the exchanges, that becomes a very big problem.
Is that the beginning? Is that the beginning of the so-called death spiral?
That could be the beginning of a death spiral. That is, you could have a situation where the only people in the exchanges are very unhealthy people with very high premiums. Now, there are a number of provisions in the law that are designed to reduce the probability of that, but that's the scare scenario that people really want to avoid.
With the idea, the idea appears to have been get those younger, healthier people from the individual insurance market and get them over onto the exchanges. The president has seemingly given them a pass, a one-year, get out of the exchange free deal. So for the next year, these insurance companies that now have all these sick people signing up, they're not going to make money. The people who are supposed to fund the law are not going to be coming over. So can you understand why they are complaining today?
Absolutely, I understand why they're complaining, because the premiums were set in expectation of a different pool. Fortunately, when the law was drafted, there was consideration given to this. So there are several provisions which are explicitly temporary, that is, they last for 3 years, which say if the premiums turn out to be wrong for a reason that was not foreseen, then the insurers will get paid more than they had bid. So that's likely to very significantly reduce the losses of the insurance companies on the exchange. But yes, absolutely, it is a big issue, and the tussle here is exactly over what happens if you think you're pricing a pool for the entire population, but you don't have the entire population in there.
Who's going to make up the losses to the insurance company? How do they make up the hit?
It'll largely come through the monies that have already been appropriated in the Affordable Care Act. Nobody knows how big that particular program will be because we don't yet know the composition of the people in the pool. Again, if it turns out to be temporary, then we're okay. It'll be a one-year expenditure that'll then be relatively small in the scale of things, much more than offset by the hopeful benefits of the program in terms of the lower premiums, which we're already seeing. So if it turns out to be a one-year slower walk, that's fine. If it turns out to go on much longer than that, then it's got some real issues.
If the insurance companies aren't making their money this year because they have only sick people and the healthy people are still over in the individual market, who's going to make up that? I mean, are the federal taxpayers paying for that? When I hear you say there's something in the Obamacare, are we paying for that? We're going to cover their losses this year?
We will, but the extent of the losses will be limited because, remember, they'll also be making money as they have been on the people who are outside of the exchanges.
But, I mean, are you basically telling me that Barack Obama cut a check to the insurance companies today in the American people's out of our banking account to try, that's his fix, that we're going to have to pay it?
It may mean a little bit higher expenditures on the people in the exchange, but it also means fewer subsidies for the people who are not in the exchange.
Okay, all right. So if that's the case,
I actually don't know which way the dollars will work out.
So if that's the case, if we have a year now where people who are on the exchanges don't have the healthy people, and premiums may go up and subsidies may go down, we don't know. What's going to make people want to sign up for the exchanges a year from now?
So what everyone believes, and we see some evidence of this, is that the exchange premiums are, on an apples-to-apples basis, lower than what was available outside of it. In addition to that, there are subsidies for anyone today. So they're 16% below even forecasts of 2 years ago, and McKinsey attributes that to the competition on the exchanges. So people will see that, and they'll also see the subsidies they receive. So the fundamentals say that when you can present them to people, people will choose to go in. The big problem here is, again, the website issue, that people can't see what they are, they can't sign up for them, so you have to do something in the interim. If people could really see them, realize that they can have them, the belief is that people would be rushing to them because of their superior value.
What makes you think that in November of 2014, when we are up against the midterm elections, that there's going to be courage in Washington to cancel all these plans that the president said he would not cancel, and now he's given them a 1-year, stay of execution, that there's going to be political courage in Washington to let them expire or cancel out right before a midterm election?
What I hope, and again, I'm not a congressional forecaster, what I hope is that when people can truly see the premiums on the exchange, what the coverage that they get, that it won't be forcing people, it'll be a stampede of people wanting to go into the exchanges.
And if they don't want to go, or if they extend this stay of execution by another year or two,
then we're starting to get into real difficulties.
What does real difficulties mean?
That means that you could have a situation where you've permanently got less healthy people in the exchanges, healthier people outside of the exchanges, and maintaining two different risk pools becomes not only financially costly, but difficult for people who are jumping from one to the other depending on their health status, or are always worried about where they're going to be. The same situation that we're trying to avoid today. The idea was to try and get people one source where no matter what your health status, you could get it.
And that's the death spiral, if we get to that point.
That's the death spiral, if we get there. Now, I don't think we're going to get there.
I hope you're right. All right, David, I got to run.
We really have to be careful.
Professor, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, the president's credibility